One. Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Crooked Illness. As you guys can see from the title of today's episode, we are going to be talking about healing PTSD through yoga therapy. Joining me today to discuss this topic is my awesome guest, Anissa Hudak. Anissa is a certified yoga therapist and founder of the Trauma Healing Yoga Therapy Program. She is a two-time rape survivor with an intimate understanding of the complex issues traumatized women face and created her program to help them navigate their healing journeys. She works with people with all types of physical conditions, but she specializes in working with those suffering from PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, and all trauma-related issues, and has been for the past 5 years. So without further ado, welcome Anissa to the podcast.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, thank you for doing this with me today. I'm excited to talk to you about your story and all the work that you're doing.
Well, let's jump in.
Okay, so can you just share a little bit about your background and what inspired you to start your trauma healing yoga therapy program?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm a two-time rape survivor.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in an alcoholic family. I've lost a child. My life kind of reads like a really bad Hallmark movie. And so I know trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I started taking teacher training courses for yoga, fell in love with yoga. And one of the courses that they were offering, it was a section of courses for PTSD. And I figured, well, my husband's active duty. We live right outside of Fort Riley, Kansas. We know a bunch of military folks. It would probably be, really good for me to know about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was about halfway through the first day and I realized, oh boy, I thought I had a real handle on my own PTSD, but really the first person I had to work on was right here.
Mm-hmm.
So it started my own personal journey. And as I was doing that alongside with working with others, it really kind of showed me how it was such a need in, just our community as a whole. People don't realize everybody has a certain amount of PTSD. I mean, you can't not possibly be living this human experience without a little bit of trauma.
Yeah.
And how do we go about dealing with it?
Mm-hmm.
Some of us go to therapy, some of us wind up taking meds, some of us walk around, and that's why we have road rage and angry people. So, how do people deal with it? What really struck me was that people don't understand what it is and what it does in your body. And, they just think that they're losing control.
Yeah.
And it was a real experience. It was a real eye-opening experience for me. And so that's kind of how it all came about.
Yeah, because you took that class and it really helped you with the healing process. And I know when I spoke with you, you said something that stuck with me about the healing process and about what that class in particular did for you. So if you could, can you just explain what is the difference between yoga, traditional yoga that we think about, that kind of a class, and then the healing therapy program that you have?
Well, if you think of yoga as a big pie, and we cut it in half, we have fitness-based yoga and then we have therapeutic yoga. And on the fitness-based side, we've got things like Ashtanga and, co-ed, hot naked yoga and Bikram and, all of these kind of aerial yoga, all of these wonderful things. And they are there for, fitness-based yoga. You're going to go in, you're going to get a workout, your mind's going to get a workout as well.
Yeah.
And you're going to go home and everything's great. So then we've got this other side. And on the therapeutic side, you can have yoga for cancer, yoga for cardiac rehab, yoga for MS, all different types. I happen to specialize in yoga for PTSD. And it's kind of like if you need braces, you're not going to go to a dentist. You're going to go see an orthodontist. It's a specialist. If you need heart surgery, you're not going to go to your general practitioner.
Yeah.
You have to go see a heart surgeon.
Yeah.
And so you want someone to really meet your needs. And that's really, truly important.
Yeah, so basically you specialize in PTSD trauma and treating that through yoga cuz I know before talking with you I didn't know that much about yoga. I didn't know too much, and you really helped teach me the difference between those two things. You know, looking at yoga for fitness and those kind of benefits, and then looking at yoga as more therapeutic, healing, working through that process that you mentioned of making sure that your need is met, because everyone has a different need going in with what kind of class that they're trying to take, what they're trying to improve on, learn, and things like that. And I think that's a really good thing to be able to explain that difference and really, teach people about what your program is and what it can help people with. So if you could, you also said something when we talked about Western medicine that really stuck with me. And you were talking about, how far behind Western medicine is and how they are compartmentalized and how there isn't really an emphasis on healing the whole person, but the parts that seem to need the most immediate attention. So can you talk a little bit about that and what you meant by that?
Well, in a lot of respects, medicine here is really triage. What
Mm-hmm.
needs the most immediate attention? Are you bleeding? Are you dying? Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it's very compartmentalized.
Mm.
You see a doctor for your skin, you see a doctor for your stomach.
Mm.
Each one has a particular specialty, and that's great. But in the same token, are they treating the whole person?
Mm.
And generally they don't, because we also
Mm-hmm.
then have doctors for you to go talk to.
Yeah.
And so, you know, yeah, you might have an issue with your stomach, but is it really because of stress? Is it
Yeah.
really, physical as opposed to emotional? And are those
Mm.
doctors treating the emotional aspect of people? Usually they're not.
Yeah.
Whereas, in most Eastern medicine, um, you know, we teach a lot of breathing techniques.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to a Chinese doctor, the first thing they're going to ask you is, how do you breathe?
Mm. Really? Yeah. No, that's interesting you say that, because I agree with you 100%. When you're having an issue, right? If you're having an issue with your stomach or your leg or your arm, you go in to see a doctor, they talk to you about what's going on, they, try to suggest what to do, things like that. But I like how you focus on what could have caused that issue mentally, emotionally, and what's going on with you inside. And
Let's
yeah.
stop treating the symptoms and let's get to the
Mhm.
root of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like that's not always done, like you said, in traditional Western medicine. The main goal is to stop the pain. Let's stop, what's hurting you right now. Let's put you on some medication, some things like that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think there is when you're not treating the whole person, like you mentioned. You're not really getting down into the root of the problem, emotionally, and actually being able to connect with that person and do what you do, where you see and you feel what's going on. You're helping them process that and deal with that in the way that you do, because I feel like it's not really addressed all the time. So yeah,
Indeed.
it's not. And I agree with you. And I think that's amazing that you're, the program that you created to really help people, especially, and it's specializing in trauma, in PTSD, in that kind of recovery, because I know, I never knew that was available. I didn't know that there was yoga that was specifically for that. I always thought that, there's yoga for fitness, there's yoga for these different things, but I never knew that there was, classes or programs out there that you can go to and learn about and take to actually deal with things that are going on inside of you, or things that have happened to you that you maybe couldn't deal with in therapy or with medications or with different things like you mentioned. Because I know, sometimes people try those things and they don't always work. And I like that there's another option available for people like your program and like the kind of yoga that you teach that actually helps people, deal with it from the point of from them, the whole person. So
Well, not only that, but PTSD actually starts in the body. People
Yeah.
think of it as something that's, a mental health issue, and it's actually not a mental health issue at all. It starts in the body. And so we need to move the body, and especially in certain ways, to help release that trauma. And so that way it doesn't become a mental health issue or a bigger mental health issue. The mental health issues that show up are really symptoms. They are not the root of the problem.
Yeah.
There is a catalyst within the body that occurs at the time of trauma, and that is what we have to negate in our class. That's what we have to flip this switch again.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But we need to do that, and you need to move your body in order to get that accomplished.
Yeah. No, I love that you said that, because I remember you said that to me before when we talked about how it starts in the body. It starts in the body, the PTSD, the trauma, it starts there. And I feel like sometimes we don't address it. And when you don't address it, it leads to these issues that continue. And, people are trying to figure out, what can you do to make it better? What can you do? Therapy, medicine, this different options. But then when you're not really dealing with it at the source, your body, then it becomes more challenging. And that is what, like you mentioned before, that could lead to mental health issues in the long run. If you're continuing to, let that happen without really dealing with it. And the thing is it's awesome that this is there for people, because this is an option that has helped a lot of people and is great. So, I'm happy I connected with you and learned about this and the stuff that you do, because I remember getting off the phone with you and just being like, wow. I was like, I did not know about, you really taught me a lot. And then even watching the video that's on your website and looking at all those different things, I learned a lot. And I think that it's important that people can learn about these different options and, see if it's a fit for them, and see if maybe they could try it out and see how it goes, because it's important.
It
So
really is. And, obviously I'm biased. I like, yoga.
yeah.
But it's not the end all. It can
Mm-hmm.
be just as simple as going for a walk. That's
Mm-hmm.
a moving meditation. Maybe you like martial arts. Maybe it's kickboxing. Maybe it's regular boxing. Those type of activities for me are they're too aggressive.
Yeah.
And it makes me an angry person. And so I need the yoga in my life to kind of calm me down a bit. And that's
Yeah.
just my makeup, who I am, but also the way my PTSD works. For other people, it can be kickboxing or Krav or whatever it is. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be yoga. And, I really stress that. Find what fills that well. Find what
Yeah.
is that missing link for you. And maybe it's art therapy. Maybe it's music
Mm-hmm.
therapy. It could be coloring. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Find something.
Yeah, I know. I love that you also bring that up too, is that it's not only the only option, right? There's many options out there. There's many things that people could learn about, explore, try, and see if that's a fit for them. And if that's something that they enjoy and they like and it's working, that's great. And I think I really wanted you to talk about the Warriors class that you took. So I remember you telling me that you took that class, and you talked to me about that. And can you just go into a little bit of what did that teach you after you took that class, and what did it do? What did taking that class do for you?
It really opened my eyes to a lot of different things, not
Mm-hmm.
only to my own personal journey that I needed to go on, but obviously it taught me the yoga side of things and how to, create a yoga class for folks with PTSD. But it also gave me the education behind the scenes. And
Mm.
when I became educated, then I got options.
Wow.
Because for me personally, I was able to kind of, in the moment, step back and say, okay, I've been triggered. This is happening. Why is this happening?
Mm.
And how do I want to respond? At that
Mm.
moment, I had a choice. I could either react
Yeah.
or I could respond. I could take a breath and I could respond. And in
Mm.
that moment of having that choice and having the education to know I had that choice, it was like,
Wow.
okay, now I'm getting somewhere. And now when I'm in that moment, I can take that breath, I can take a step back and, do I still respond? Yes, sometimes I react.
Yeah.
Sometimes I still react. I'm human. But there are more times than not that I step back, take a breath, and respond because I know why I'm feeling this way. I
Wow.
understand why I've been triggered. And that has just been so freeing to have that kind of background and knowledge.
Yeah. And is that the class that you took that really helped you start your healing process, that helped you? Is that the class? Because I remember you were telling me, yeah, you told me about the class you took that helped you open your eyes to the work that you needed to do on yourself. And then after you did that, that's when you fell in love with the practice, with yoga, and really wanted to go out there and put something together to help people specifically relating to PTSD and trauma.
Absolutely. I always say my mat saved my life.
Yeah.
And absolutely, it did, bar none. And in fact, I had surgery a couple of years ago, and I took my mat with me. I was like
Mm.
Linus. And my husband said to me, "But you're having surgery. You're not getting on your mat." And I said, "I don't. It's my closest confidant. I can tell
Yeah.
anything. There's no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm like Linus with my mat. So I took it with me to have surgery.
Yeah.
My mat saved my life,
Wow.
and I am indebted to it, and I love the practice, and I love being able to share that. I'm not teaching yoga. I am sharing this amazing gift, and people can take it or they can walk away from it, and that's
Yeah.
okay. The thing about trying different modalities is that here you are in your particular place in your healing journey. In 6 months or in 8 months or a year, you're in a different place and you're a different person. And so
Mm.
just because you tried something once before, go back and try it again because you're in a different place.
Wow. Yeah, no, I wish that I knew about this option when I was, when I was 16, because I also went through dealing with a rape, and I never knew about this. I didn't know this was an option. I didn't know anything about yoga, nothing. And I remember going through therapy, medications, different kinds of treatments, and nothing was really like clicking for me or really helping me. And I feel like if I knew that I could do something like this, because I've always loved working out, I've always loved movement, running, all those kinds of things. So I feel like if I was aware of this kind of an option, then my healing journey would have been different. But and I'm so grateful to have been able to connect with you and learn more about this and see the different things that you're doing to really help people who are taking your program and having conversations with you and things like that, because it's so important to give people or just teach them about this, open the door for them, say, hey, here's an option. It might work for you, it might not. And I like how you said, people can come to you and do the program and things like that. And if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit, but it's still there. So
And it may not fit now,
yeah. Yeah.
but try it again and try it with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it's the instructor that really, makes the difference. I've had some yoga teachers that I was like, I'm never going back to their class again. I had one woman, she would bang a cane on the floor and yell out the pose.
Oh,
I was,
you're,
what is this?
yeah.
Not coming back to this class. And then I've had some other wonderful, wonderful mentors that, are just so amazing and yummy. And that's how I fell in love with yoga. And I had the opportunity to work on post here at Fort Riley with the Warrior Transition Battalion. And I loved it because I would have these big burly guys coming in and, oh, we're going to do some yoga. We're going to do a little stretching, and then we're going to take a nap. And then they get on the mat with me, and it's nothing like what they expected.
Wow.
And afterwards they come up to me and they're like, ma'am, that was really incredible. And I feel amazing. I'll see you next week.
Aw.
yeah, I'll see you next week. And then all of a sudden, a couple weeks later, not only are they coming back week after week, but then dude, you got to try this. They start bringing their buddies in. You got
Yeah.
to try this. This is amazing. And it was really fun to watch the conversion, if you will,
Yeah.
because they had this, set thought of what this was going to be. And it wasn't that at all.
Wow.
And, it was so much fun.
That must be such a great experience to see that and to watch them come in and see them one way where they're like, no, like this, they're like yoga. Okay. And then you see them after and how they go through and then they come back and then, they love it and they're benefiting from it and they're growing and they're learning. And I think I think that's one of the best feelings ever in life is when you have, someone, who comes into something and they're not sure about it. They don't really want to do it. They're kind of on the edge and then they love it and they learn from it. And then you get to see that and really guide them through that. And I like how you said you're helping people the way, I don't know what the way you put it, but you told me this, you said, you're not teaching them yoga. You're helping them.
I'm
Yeah.
sharing this
Yeah.
amazing gift. And that's really what it was. I had no intentions of ever teaching yoga. I
Yeah.
initially started taking teacher training classes. So I could do it for me and
Mm.
my own self. I didn't want to go to class and I could just keep myself safe. That was my
Yeah.
whole intention. And then about a month after I took my first class, not only did I realize during the class that I really enjoyed the actual teaching aspect of it, but that I wasn't really teaching. I was sharing how much I loved this movement.
Yeah.
So within a month I had 2 job opportunities and I was
Wow.
like, okay, I think the universe is trying to tell me something here. And so I
Yeah.
started teaching and from there it just kind of grew. And really, I loved my time on post. It was wonderful. I love watching women come into my private practice and seeing them come in and, you know, within an hour, they walk out a different person.
Wow.
And even if it's just for another hour that they're
Yeah.
like that, it's so wonderful to see them leave that baggage behind just for a little while.
Wow. Because I remember when you were describing that to me and telling me about that and how you help people through that. And everyone has a different way in which they heal or how they show that or how they exhibit that. And I loved how you described that to me and the way that you were doing that with that course, the Warriors one that you took, and then creating your program and really, and it's so funny that you told me that you had no intention of doing, teaching yoga. I remember you were telling me, you said, I wanted to do it on my own time, on schedule, things like that. And then you did, and then you fell in love with it. And that's amazing to see that because I can see it. I can see it when I talk to you. I saw it when I spoke to you. You have passion in the way you speak about this and the work that you do. And I think that's amazing that you are that way and that you've been able to create something to where you can open that door for other people. And that's great because it's so necessary. It's so necessary to have these other options for people when it comes to healing and dealing specifically with trauma, PTSD, because sometimes it's, you might not, you don't even know what someone's going through, right? When you meet someone, you don't know them, you don't know their story. And it's a great thing to have that there for somebody to take, to access that, to take your program, to talk to you about what's going on with them and to really be able to connect with them and really do that. Because, what I love the most about you and your story is that you've lived what you do. You've lived it, you've experienced it, you've been there, you've gone through it. And it's not like because you've had that it's easier to do what you do. I just think it helps you connect on a deeper level with people.
My initial rape, I was 18.
Mm.
I was in college. And then, I dealt with it for many, 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 many years. And I did the same thing, medications, therapy, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
I finally got on my mat and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
started really working it out. Well, I was raped about 4 years ago.
Wow.
And at this point, I had already taken the courses. I knew. And so the first thing I did was I got on my mat
Yeah.
because I knew that it was going to be the one thing that was going to really save me.
Mm-hmm.
And some days it looked like, crawling up in the fetal position and crying.
Yeah.
Some days it was busting out a couple of poses. Some days it was a full practice. It didn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
but I was on my mat and I was utilizing that time for me. And that was my lifeline.
Yeah.
Now, am I in therapy and on meds? Absolutely. I'm still dealing with the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I have a wonderful therapist who, by the way, only deals with sexual trauma. So
Wow.
again, if you're going to go to therapy, find someone who meets your needs.
Yes. Yes. That's so important because I know, this could be a whole nother episode, talking about my experiences with therapy and really finding someone who specializes in what you're going through and what you need. And like you said earlier in the episode, what you do with the yoga is meeting someone's need who has PTSD and trauma and wants to learn about that. And I think it's so important, with whatever you're doing or with whatever you're dealing with to make sure you are, seeking out a solution or seeking out more information in a way that is most helpful to you and most helpful to meeting the need of whatever you are dealing with at that time. So,
I think especially with fitness-based yoga teachers, they want customers for life.
yeah.
You know, I don't.
Yeah.
I want to get you to a point where you don't have to see me anymore. You come because
Mm.
you want to see me, and I like that, but not that you have to.
Yeah.
That's my goal, is to get you to that point. But, and if you fall in love with it in the meantime,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'd love to see you
Yeah.
every day, but that's the key, is to
Yeah.
really help people along their journey.
Yeah, no, that is true 100%. So for you, if you could define, I think you may have already done this, but if you could define the one moment that really struck you and made you say, okay, I want to teach it. I want to have a program. I want to do this for other people. What do you know, like, when was that? What was going on? And how were you in that moment?
um, So there is a practice that we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a SOAS release. It was my first time ever doing it. I was at a yoga convention, if you will, not a convention, but a conference. We were
Mm.
taking teacher training courses, and in one of my classes, we did a SOAS release, and it's a huge. Physically, it's not that difficult, but emotionally, you
Oh,
really unload a lot of emotional baggage. And it's my first time ever doing it, and of course, I do it, and I just start sobbing.
wow.
And I'm
Yeah.
sobbing and I'm sobbing and I'm sobbing. For the next hour and a half, I'm sobbing. So right after the class, we do this exercise, and then we go to lunch.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there in a room full of all these women at a hotel, right? We're sitting in these
Mm-hmm.
round tables, and they, at a yoga conference, they only serve you bird food. So, it's like salad, rabbit food,
Yeah.
nuts, granola, salad. Part of it is because you don't want to puke on the mat, and part of
Yeah.
it, most of them don't eat. But I'm a cheeseburger girl, so I mean,
Oh, me too. I like.
yeah. So I'm like, bring out the food. Um,
uh,
but I'm sitting there, I'm like sobbing into my salad,
oh,
and people are coming up to me, people I hadn't ever met. All of these yoginis are coming up to me saying, "Honey, what's the matter? Are you okay?" I just released my psoas. And they're
oh,
like, "Oh, yes, go ahead. Just cry it out,
uh,
honey. Just cry it out."
oh,
And in that moment, I was like, okay, this is pretty amazing that everybody got me.
yeah.
Everybody understood in that moment. And they were cheering me on to cry.
Wow. That's
And
wow.
so, it was so amazing to be in that kind of an environment where people are saying, yes,
Yeah.
cry, get it out, leave it behind. And I was like, oh my God, if I could do this for others, because I knew how I felt afterwards. I felt like
Yeah.
$1,000,000. I felt like this huge weight had been lifted off of me. And people were coming up to me later saying, "You feel good, don't you?" Oh my gosh,
Oh,
tackle the world. And when I experienced that, I was like, oh my gosh, people need to really experience this.
yeah. That is beautiful. That's beautiful. When you had that experience, you really decided to actually do this and help other people and help them, because you had that moment where it hit you. It hit you and other people saw, recognized, came over and they identified with that. And I feel like that's always such a powerful moment. Like when people can connect with you without, like they just see you over there crying and they could have just been like, oh, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna walk away. She's crying. I don't know what to do. But they saw that and they recognized what was going on. And it's crazy how when that happens in those moments, we just have these like realizations of what we want to do. And that's awesome. I love that. That makes me happy to hear that.
So about 2 years ago, we were in our private practice. There were about 5 of us ladies. Most of us have had some sort of sexual trauma. And this one girl had an emotional release on her mat and she started sobbing.
Yeah.
And so I went through and finished the class like I normally would, just let her,
Yeah.
do her thing. Afterwards, I checked in on her, made sure she was okay. And I said, cry it out.
Yeah.
And we all started to cheer for her.
Oh.
And, cry it out, let it go, leave it behind. You don't have to be carrying this. And that's the thing. You don't have to carry this baggage. You don't have to carry this emotion. And yoga is a great vehicle to releasing it.
Wow. Yeah.
And we cheered for her. And later she Facebook messaged me and she was like, that was the most amazing thing that you all cheered for me. I was embarrassed, but after you guys were cheering me on, I felt like $1,000,000.
Oh.
And I was like, you know what? It not only had come full circle, but I was like, I know I'm doing what I should be doing.
Wow. Wow. I loved it's. Don't you love that when you receive messages like that and you read that and you see that and you're like, wow, wow. Like you just sit there and you're like, what I'm doing is actually helping someone. It's actually making a difference for someone. I love that. And it's so beautiful, when you can have that connection and do that for somebody and then see them really start to grow. And I remember you told me that you see the process of, when people come into your doing yoga and they're not that comfortable and then as it goes on, they open up and they get more comfortable and they grow and they learn and you watch that process.
It's amazing. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful process. It's like seeing a butterfly coming out of a cocoon, if you
Yeah.
will. It's really, really lovely. And, it's priceless. It
Yeah.
really is. It's priceless.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think that is so beautiful to watch someone in that transition, and especially with, what you're doing, the work you're doing, you get to do that all the time. So, you guys need to check her out. Anissa has a website, traumahealingyoga.com. Check out her website, check out the work she's doing, check out her trauma healing yoga therapy program. She also has other available resources on that website as well. And, I just really wanted to thank you for, making the time to connect and do this interview and share a little bit about your story and the work that you do. So
No,
thank
I'm
you.
honored. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you so much. And I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day and enjoy your weekend.
You as well. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.